and my cousin opened the door up. To his surprise, he see 3 hooded men with machetes, axes and knives. It would have been abnormal to put Venables on normal location because his name was so hyped up in the social media that it would have been inevitable that he would have got it a lot sooner than what he actually did get it. You shouldn't be able to go around and murder someone and do 4 or 5 years and then get out of prison because you're now a threat to the public, you're a danger to the public. I lived for that moment at that time. I was doing 12 years and whatever I had to do to get through them 12 years, that's what I'd done. It takes away that feeling of waking up every morning, of having to go out to get money to fund your habit and worrying about where you're going to get your next bit of gear from, right? On the street, a £5 bit of heroin would be worth in prison, let's say, £300 to £400. She showed me a different way, totally different than what I knew in life. I had triggers, I had old associates, I had friends trying to pull me back into the game, offer me bits of work. I wasn't no saint in no prison at all. I was a right little fucker.
So, we are back with Joe. If you haven't seen the series of the Joey Barnett Part 1 and 2, the links will be in the description box below the video, as will links to Joe's socials and his book, which is doing really well. And he's got about 500,000 views now on the podcast and clips combined, and one particular clip went viral about the sad case of the murder of James Bulger. And I just want to apologise for a few little mistakes that were made in that story. We're going to rectify that starting out this podcast today. And I'd first just like to thank Joe for coming back on.
Cheers, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on your platform.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. It's getting massive responses. This clip went out about Bulger, and there was a situation in the prison with one of his murders, and you will get to that, but just to make sure everything is scientifically correct, I'm going to read what happened here for this poor lad, only 2 years old. So 16th of March 1990 to 12th of February 1993 was how long James Bulger was alive. See, I left the country in 1991, that's why I didn't, I never saw this in the news in America. So he was a 2-year-old boy from Kirby, Merseyside. So that's just outside of Liverpool, not far from my hometown, Widnes, actually. Now, he was abducted, tortured and killed by 2 10-year-old boys. How insane is this? Their names were Robert Thompson and John Venables. This happened on Friday, 12th of February 1993. Thompson and Venables led Bulger away from the New Strand shopping centre in Bootle as his mum had taken her eyes off him just temporarily. Bloody hell. His mutilated body was found on a railway line 2.5 miles away in Walton, Liverpool, 2 days after his abduction. Thompson and Venables were charged on 20th of Feb 93 with abduction and murder. They were found guilty on November 24th, making the youngest convicted murderers in modern British history. Sentenced to detention at Her Majesty's pleasure until a board decision in June 2001 recommended their release on a lifelong licence, age 18. In 2010, Venables was sent to prison for breaching the terms of his licence and was released on parole again in 2013. In November 2017, Venables was once again sent to prison for possessing child abuse images on his computer. And this case has prompted widespread debate about how to handle young offenders when they are sentenced or released from custody. And that's just the beginning of the Wikipedia page for the murder of James Bulger. So if you want to look up that, and that is the correct story. So last time Joe has done many, many years in prison, 30 plus, and that's a long time. There's a lot of stories. A lot happened over that period of time. What happened with him and Venables definitely happened, but Joe just got a few of the details mixed up, and we do apologise for that. And obviously, no offence was intended to be caused to anyone, family members or anything like that. And our hearts do go out to them. And I'll let Joe pick up from there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I did get the story mixed up a little bit. It's just the name Venables stuck in my mind because it is a story what obviously it shocked the nation, and it was such a tragedy. I didn't really, when I see him in Wayland in 2010, I didn't know what he looked like or anything. I didn't have a clue about him because obviously they changed his name by the time I see him. And I could walk straight past him and I wouldn't even recognise him. It wasn't until one of the officers in HMP Wayland in 2010 actually come into my cell and told me who he was and what the crack was and what he was in for. And that's what happened. What happened after I got told who he was. Basically, he tried to come into Wayland prison on normal location. So it might have been where he's done so many years in jail, and he thought he'd chance his luck on normal location, and obviously where they changed his name to, Shaun, so it wasn't out of the ordinary for Venables to be on normal location. At first, when he first got arrested for the murder, it would have been abnormal to put Venables on normal location because his name was so hyped up in the social media that it would have been inevitable that he would have got it a lot sooner than what he actually did get it. I wouldn't have known who he was unless it was down to an officer what told me. And I took the opportunity up and I've done what I had to do. And I also got questioned for it. And the CID come into the Wayland prison one day before I was being released from prison to interview me about an alleged assault which happened on John Venables. After reading the case and going over a few questions and having a chat with the CID officer, she decided that there wasn't enough evidence and she NFA'd it, which is no further action. And I was released from prison the very next day.
Wow.
So I was
close call, wasn't it?
A very, very close call. And it's something really like, do I regret doing it? No, I don't regret doing it. Would I do it again? No. I look at things different now. But at that time, I didn't really know, I couldn't see any consequences for my actions at that time. I know it was 2010, but it was an opportunity that obviously I couldn't refuse because I was used in various other prison systems as the same type of thing. Officers would know me from going to jail for over the years, get close to me, and they'd leak out the information of who the paedophiles were, which I was very grateful for because that's what helped me get through my sentence each day. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but it was a little bit of action, and any action in jail to take you away from the situation what you're in is a good thing. So that's the case with John Venables and James Bulger. I'm very sorry if I did get my first story mixed up. As Shaun explained, I've done many years in prison. I've been around many different high-profile cases. I suffer with PTSD, and I've also got mental health issues, which it isn't really plain to see, but deep inside me, I suffer with mental health issues. So it was inevitable that I would get a few of the stories mixed up, Shaun. But I'm very sorry if I did cause anyone any distress by getting that story mixed up.
And just so people can understand how sad this case is, camera evidence was taken from the New Strand shopping centre in Bootle, showing Thompson and Venables casually observing children until they selected a target. The boys were playing truant from school, which they did regularly, and throughout the day they were seen stealing various items, including sweets and a troll doll, some batteries in a can of blue paint, some of which was found at the murder scene. One of them later revealed that they were planning to find a child to abduct, lead him to the busy road alongside the shopping centre, and push him into the path of oncoming traffic.
It's despicable, isn't it, Shaun? Despicable.
Bloody hell. That same afternoon, Bulger from Kirby went with his mother, Denise, to the New Strand centre. Whilst inside the AR Times butcher's shop on the lower floor of the centre, Denise, who had let go of her son's hand while paying for her shopping, realised that he had left the shop. Thompson and Venables approached him, took him by the hand and led him out of the shopping centre, all caught on camera. Took him to the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, a quarter of a mile from the centre, where they dropped him on his head and he suffered injuries to his face. They joked about pushing him into the canal. An eyewitness during the trial said that when he saw Bulger at the canal, he was crying his eyes out. Oh, God, I can't read any more of this. This is horrible, isn't it?
You know, so you can understand when someone puts the name in front of you and says, like, you know, who he is and what he's done.
Yeah.
I don't know many people wouldn't have done what I've done, to be honest with you. And it would have been a lot harder for me to walk away from the situation than what it would to actually deal with that situation at that time. Because, you know, people like him are despicable, they're scum, you know, and the public deserve a better place than having scumbags like that walking about.
And then he gets a second chance at life and he's got child porn.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. The thing is, when I'm not targeting paedophiles, but when paedophiles, the prolific paedophiles, go to jail, they don't get treated as convicts. They actually get treated as patients. So it's like a hotel to them. You know, they get PlayStations, they get easy chairs, they get quilts, they get curtains, and they all get put onto one wing. And because they're all in the same boat, they're all paedophiles. So it's not crime, it's not punishment or deterrent for them. And then they get put on courses to do different courses, all paid by the taxpayers' money. And most of them failed. Do you know what I mean? So it was good. Look, one of them did slip through the net every now and then, and one of them come a crop up because that's what they deserve.
And if you want to see more about that, the Joey Barnett playlist now, we've got loads of videos on it. And one's about the hit list that the guards put out. Is it because they get all those luxuries and the courses and everything that the guards are a bit pissed off about that? Does that also motivate the hit list as well as the nature of the crime?
No, the hit list can the names on the hit list will only go out if the guys on the hit list are on normal location. So
so they're undercover in normal location.
Yeah. So when a paedophile goes to reception, he gets offered whether he wants to go on Rule 43 or protection.
Right.
And some of them fancy their chances and try and go on normal location.
Yeah.
It's them ones, you know, get leaked. Their names get leaked because at the end of the day, prison officers don't like them. No one likes them. You know, it's only a job. And
I saw the exact same thing in Arizona.
convict justice.
Yeah, there was one next door to me, and he was living with the head of the Mexican gang. And when he went to court, it showed his case on the TV in the day room that he's molested his niece. So they waited till a guard did a security walk, so they had 30 minutes to torture him. And I've never heard such sounds before in my life, like animals, like a cat on fire or something. And when he came out, he was covered in blood from head to toe. And he just banged on the plexiglass, and the guards opened the sliding door, and he just collapsed, and that was it. We never saw him again.
Yeah, so it happens in every country. It happens in every up and down the country.
Yeah.
Going back on that hit list, if a paedophile comes into jail and he fancies his chances on normal location, then the officers will pick up on it, and obviously there'll be a file in the office on the wing called their page 16. So every inmate has a file, and it's called a page 16. And the officers, although inmates don't know that officers are doing write-ups on them, and they don't know that they've been observed and watched. Every inmate in prison has been observed and watched, and there's a thing called a page 16, and that's all the reports what happens in prison. Just so that when you go from one prison to another, because if you've got your page 16 is all bad write-ups. When you go to the next prison, the next establishment will pick up your page 16, and then they can like stereotype you, type of thing. As your behaviour of what happened in the last jail will follow you to the next jail. But hit lists do fly about, and they're still flying about today, Shaun, in prisons, and rightly so. Do you know, rightly so. I don't condemn violence, and I'm not a violent person myself now, but I do believe in convict justice. So that's that story cleared up, Shaun.
So from the videos that we've all done so far, then, have you been reading the comments, and what have you been thinking of the reception coming in and the questions and stuff like that for you?
You know, every day I wake up and I put my phone on and check the podcast, check all my our podcast, and the comments are unbelievable, so inspiring. You know, I've had a few bad ones, but mostly they've been good ones, and the positive comments are outweighing the negative comments.
It's like 90, almost 100%, isn't it?
Yes, it's absolutely amazing. You know, the first podcast which we done, me and you, Shaun, and the second one, it's gave me so much opportunity, or so many opportunities, and opened many other doors. I've got loads of directors, different firms getting in touch with me and wanting my story, wanting me to go into their schools and youth clubs, young offenders prisons, as a motivational speaker. It's not something what I've done, but it's something what I'm looking at doing. But to be honest with you, although I come across as confident, I'm a nervous wreck when I go on these podcasts, Shaun. For instance, like on the way down here today, I bought my missus because we killed two birds in one stone, because she's going to London to see her family, and I was coming to Guildford to see you, Shaun. So we both come down here. But yeah, it's amazing. It's been absolutely amazing, Shaun. The comments, unbelievable.
Right then, all right. So you said that there was a murder in your family that you're able to talk about. Is that still the case?
Yeah. 2010. It happened. 2021. It happened a few years ago, and it was my uncle which got murdered. It was my mum's brother, and his name is Peter Lee. He come from Streatham, southwest London, and he's lived there all of his life. He was 76 years of age. One afternoon, around 4 o'clock, my uncle lived in a lovely house, a 3-bedroom house, with his 2 sons, Terry and Danny. Which, big respect to you, and a big shout out to Terry and Danny. I love your cousin. And one afternoon, my uncle went down to the dentist to get his dentures fitted. So he'd left the house, and my 2 cousins were in the house on their own. Not long after my uncle left the house, there was a knock on the door, and my cousin opened the door up. To his surprise, he see 3 hooded men with machetes, axes and knives. And they'd actually come to my uncle's house to rob him, thinking that he was on his own. He was a pensioner on his own. I don't know where they got that information from, but that's what they thought, and they was there to rob him. As luck had it, at this time Peter wasn't in. He was down the dentist, as I said. A fight broke out on the doorstep, and the fight went into the house. At this time, Terry and Danny, both of my cousins, were both struggling for their lives. They're fighting 3 hooded men with knives and machetes and axes. And a big massive fight broke out. So one of the robbers, or crackheads, or scumbags, whatever you want to call them, had gotten away, and he had gone to pick his car up, which was parked at the top of the road. So they come prepared with tools, with a vehicle, to rob my uncle on his own, a pensioner. One of them one of them got out over the back garden fence and run up to pick his car up. His 2 co-defendants were still inside the house at this time, fighting with my 2 cousins. which my two cousins both ended up in hospital with stab wounds too. After, I'm not too sure how long they was fighting for, Shaun, but it must have felt like a lifetime to my two cousins.
Can imagine, just 3 hooded men with machetes, axes and knives show up.
Not long after, one broke out to go and pick his car up, to pick his other two co-defendants up in the house, to obviously get them away. My uncle come out of the dentist and he was walking home, and he was walking home. So as my uncle entered his house, the side of his house, he noticed one of his boys or two of his boys screaming. And at this time, my uncle was just outside his house on the pavement. So if that's the house there, the pavement's there. My uncle's standing there. He hasn't got a clue what's gone on. He didn't see none of the what happened. He didn't see who come round or what. All he can see is his two boys are fighting for their lives. He didn't notice the car coming down, but the car come down Gorse Rise, which is the side of his house in Streatham. So the car come down to pick his two co-defendants up, and my uncle was just on the pavement there. So as the car's come down like that, he's hit my uncle, knocked him unconscious, stopped, looked out of his mirror, put the car in reverse, which is a 4-wheel drive car, and then reversed over my uncle to make sure he was dead. Now my uncle Peter was wrapped around the wheel.
Holy shit.
And he was dead on the pavement. Both of my cousins, Terry and Danny, had horrific injuries, but they was fighting for their life. And Danny, he went up to his dad, which was my Uncle Peter, on the pavement. The car sped off, so the car didn't stop. And the two guys got out of the house and got into the car, and they sped off. So 3 of them sped off, leaving my uncle dead in the road, and my two cousins both stabbed and in a bad way, fighting for their lives. My cousin Danny went up to his dad, Peter, and obviously put his arm underneath his dad's head to cradle his head. And he looked at Terry, which was my other cousin, and said, "It's too late, he's dead." Shortly after, the ambulances come, the blue sirens come, the police came, the 3 co-defendants got away, and both of my cousins ended up in St George's Hospital, being treated for stab wounds. It wasn't until they was being treated for the stab wounds, laid up in their hospital beds, that Terry, my cousin, actually rang me. But I was 80 miles away in Littlehampton, and they live in London. Terry tried to explain to me what had happened about Peter, about his dad, which was my uncle, and would I bring a few of my family members down to the hospital to say goodbye to my Uncle Peter, which this happened probably around 30 minutes after Peter had died. I got the phone call, so I rounded quite a few of my family members up, chucked them all in a car. We were well overloaded, but there was a few 2 carloads of us, and we all went down to St George's Hospital in Tooting, and went on to the ward, and we see Terry in one bed and Danny in the other bed. Those both crying their eyes out, and obviously stitched up, had blood all over them. Peter, my uncle, I don't know how it happened, but he went through for surgery. I'm not too sure what happened there, because as far as I was concerned, he was dead before he got in the ambulance. But he went for surgery. they might have brought him back or resuscitated him or something like that, Shaun. I'm not too sure. But he went for surgery on his legs to have pins, and where the car had hit him, took his legs out, broke every bone in his legs. But they obviously had to sedate him to put him under a local anaesthetic or general anaesthetic to operate on him, Shaun. So, he had all the breathing apparatus, the drips and everything else around him. The operation went successful, and they put Peter back onto in the ICU unit, but he was in a private cubicle. When we got into the hospital, Terry and Danny told me and my other cousins where his dad was, and would like to go up and say goodbye to Peter. So we went upstairs. I went up to the nurse on the ICU unit and explained that we was family and we'd like to say goodbye, which they granted to us. And we all went in, two at a time, held Peter and said goodbye to Peter. But yeah, Peter died of the injuries. Terry and Danny were stitched up in the hospital, but you know, they was devastated, and they still are today, you know, and so is all the rest of our family, because we've got a very close-knit family, and you hear about these things on TV all the time, you know, or films, you know, but you don't really hear about many things like this, what happened in your direct family, you know, and this happened in my family, and it destroys you, Shaun, do you know what I mean? So they went on the run. 3 of them went on the run. A short while later, they got apprehended and got arrested, and got put on remand for murder of my Uncle Peter Lee.
And people can look this up if they want online. If you put in Peter Lee spelled L-E-E, if you want to see the details of the case.
The worst thing about it is these 3 co-defendants that killed my uncle, they actually went not guilty, and they was on like a 6-week, 8-week trial. So my cousins, what had just witnessed their dad being murdered, had to go to court every day with that in their head, knowing that these 3 scumbags had killed their dad. They had to stand in that dock and had to give evidence, and they was cross-examined by these 3 co-defendants, barristers and solicitors. My cousins were cross-examined. I believe they got I got it down to a manslaughter, which I don't know how, because they went round the house with knives, tools, and it was a planned attack. It wasn't a spur of the moment thing. It was a planned attack, because they went round there with tools and knives, thinking that my uncle was in the house on his own, which he wasn't at that time. My 2 cousins was in there. So yeah, they got it down to a manslaughter. I'm not too sure of the sentences. One got 8 years, something stupid. One got all 3 of them had extensive previous convictions, extensive, in and out of prisons for violence all of their life, and they was drug addicts, they was crackheads, and they was funding the crack habit. The horrible thing about it is I actually know one of the co-defendants who murdered my uncle, and his family know me. So it's pretty hard, you know, because he was my uncle at the end of the day, and it was my mum's brother, so I love him dearly and I miss him so much. And he didn't deserve to die like that. Peter Lee lived for his grandkids, he lived for his children, he was a family man, he didn't harm no one, he wasn't violent, he had nothing but love for people, and this is how you get repaid in life, by scumbags like that, killing your uncle. So going on that subject, Shaun, this is what the world's come to now. the respect, the morals, the solidarity, it's all gone these days. All three of them got sentenced and convicted, and one of them hung themselves whilst he is on remand. I think it was in Wandsworth prison, or Highdown, Wandsworth, I think.
Wandsworth, yeah.
One of them hung themselves before the trial started, and he was out on licence for a Section 18 GBH. He'd just done 10 years.
Was that the driver?
Yeah, I think so. I know he was out on licence, and, you know, he would have definitely got an IPP sentence or a life sentence because he was on licence for violence. So he hung himself before the trial went forward, got on. I believe the other two are out now, Shaun.
Are they?
Yeah, they're out. Done half of their sentence and got released.
Wow.
So this is what the public are up against these days. You know, you can go around, or you shouldn't be able to go around and murder someone and do 4 or 5 years and then get out of prison because you're now a threat to the public. You're a danger to the public, and the public don't deserve.
Get a bigger sentence for drugs.
Exactly.
It's all upside down.
And going back on paedophiles, Shaun. I'm not digging paedophiles out. It's plain to see I don't like paedophiles. But what I'm saying is, there's no justice in that sense. They don't get a bigger sentence as someone like what murdered my uncle do. And 2 of these co-defendants are out on the street now, getting on with their normal lives, you know, planning happy families, when we're left now with the heartache, the thoughts and the tears, you know, very close family we was. And it's hard for me to talk to Terry and Danny about it because it was their dad, and they can't bring it to the table, they can't come to terms, and they can't talk about it. This is why I'm bringing you guys this story on behalf of both my cousins.
And, you know, these stories tie into what changes we want to be made in the system, and murderers getting out with, like, after just so many years, sexual predators getting out after so many years, slaps on the wrist sentences, yet, you know, the cops targeting people for drug offences and giving them life sentences. It's absolutely insane. And in one of the articles it said that the crackheads that attempted this robbery thought there was weed in the house. So, you know, if weed was legalised, this never would have happened. How many podcast guests have we spoke to where the craziest stuff in the world happens and people die, or something really bad happens to someone, and this would not have happened if weed was completely legalised? It's causing chaos all over the world, these drug laws, and we just see it time and time again with guest after guest after guest on this show. It just becomes more and more apparent. Hence, solidifying our belief in our mission statement to end the war on drugs and take all those resources and go after the predators. So coming in here today, we were talking affectionately about Yamy, and just want to give Yamy a shout out. He's got a new channel now, and he's he always gets a big following very fast. He's so charismatic, so positive. And I'm just wondering if you've got any untold Yamy stories.
I remember when I first met Yamy, it was in the early 90s, and I've got so much love for Yamy and respect for Yamy. You know, we've done a lot of bird together, and he wears his art on his sleeves, very, very similar to me. We've got a very similar background, me and Yamy, you know, we had a lot in common. I've spoken to Yamy on numerous occasions since we've been out of jail, and I'm over the moon he's out, do you know what I mean? But yeah, when I was in Belmarsh in 1999, I was going up to the hot plate one day, and Yamy was behind me in the queue, dinner time. And I had the hump this day. They just put someone in my cell, and I did warn the officers and said, look, I'm at high risk and I shouldn't be put in a double cell. So I wasn't too happy about the situation anyway at that time, and I had the hump that time. You know, I've just been given 12 years, and you get days when you have good days and you have bad days. And this day, it was a bad day for me. I was down on the hot plate, queuing up for my dinner, and Yamy was standing behind me and was having a little discussion. And I said to Yamy, I said, look at that crap there they're dishing up here. Look, the chips were stone cold and hard. The peas still had frost on them. It had a pie on it. It was absolutely rank, do you know what I mean? And I said to Yamy, I said, I'll tell you what, Yamy, I said, we're going to have a bit of a laugh here. I'm going to throw this lot straight over a screw. And, you know, people might not believe it and people might think he's like exaggerating, but this is what happened, do you know what I mean? Because then days I didn't really care about what happened. I didn't care about the consequences. I lived for that moment at that time. I was doing 12 years, and whatever I had to do to get through them 12 years, that's what I'd done. And it must have worked, Shaun, because I'm still here sitting here to tell you the tales. But anyway, I went up to the hot plate, and they started dishing me some cold food out, and I patted Yamy, and I said, what's this, man? And I just got my tray, and I went crash, and I just covered one of the screws with like my plate, and there was metal plates in, metal trays. Just covered the screw with it, do you know what I mean? And Yamy, I'll never forget him, because a few of the hot plate officers jumped over the jump and they'd gone on the bill, you know, they was going to restrain me and take me down the block, which I knew already, you know what I mean? I knew they was going to do that. But I'll give Yamy his due on this occasion. Two of the officers restrained me and put me onto the floor. And Yamy actually come up to one of the officers and he said, you don't need to bend them up like that. You've got him down already. You've got him in restraints. Like, you know, you don't need to break his wrist or break his... They had me like with my legs bent up, holding me, and my wrist behind like that bent up, and Yamy like stuck up for me and said like, drop that out. Don't go on like that with him, do you know what I mean? Because Yamy is one of the boys like us, and we wouldn't tolerate it, do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. But yeah, I've got quite a few stories about Yamy. I've got nothing but love for him, you know what I mean? He's such a nice person. I wish him all the best. And even in prison, like, he was good at drama. If a play come up in the prison, he would put himself forward to do the play, do you know what I mean? And the role model, he was a good actor. He's got some really good quality bits about him, Yamy, do you know what I mean? I love him to bits. I couldn't actually believe it when I spoke to him, and he said that, I think he said he come out in 2017 or two.
We interviewed him quite quickly, didn't we, James? When he just after he got out. Do you remember when that was?
July, maybe.
2017.
I think it was 2017, wasn't it?
It was hot when we went round there. So summer, July or August.
4 years we've been doing this then, 4 or 5 years now.
Time flies when you're having fun, Shaun, it flies.
God, it's gone like that.
Yeah, I heard that Yamy was out, and I got his number from another good friend of mine. I got his number, and I rang him up, do you know what I mean? And I had a good chat with him, and we clicked, do you know what I mean, straight away.
Yeah.
And he's a good person, Yamy, you know. He's a bit like myself, you know, got stuck in the system. Prison wasn't a deterrent for him, nor for me. Yamy is a people pleaser. I'll say that online. Yamy loves to please people. Yamy, from what I know Yamy of, he'll put someone else before he puts himself forward. So he'll put someone else first before he puts his...
You mean that in a good way, the people pleaser? Yeah.
First, yeah. He'll go that extra little bit to help someone else out. Do you know what I mean, Yamy? He's a very, very good person, and I wish him all the best.
He came out here and we had a country walk, and I'll tell this for the viewers. We were going down a very steep hill, and I started trotting down it because of the gravity. And next thing, I just hear Yamy's like, get out the way! And he can't stop himself. He's just flying down this hill.
That's Yamy. Hits
the bottom, and there's like a ditch and all these trees. He flips upside down. Flips upside down. And then I thought, he's going to break his neck. And he does like a karate break fall, spins, and just stands up.
It's like gymnastics.
Yeah. And he goes, Shaun, imagine if I had just broke my neck and died, what they would have been saying about you. Yeah.
Oh, what a blind. So he's doing well then, Yamy?
Yeah. I mean, he had one channel, now he's got another channel.
I've noticed he had one channel, yeah.
He's got a loyal following very fast. Yeah, I think it took me 5 years to get 5,000 subscribers. I think Yamy's had it in less than a year.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my YouTube channel up since, God, it's 8 years old. But I wasn't uploading content onto it. I only created it more to see if I could do it.
Yeah.
It's only the last few years when the podcasts have started picking up. Like I realised that, you know, I should be putting content on my own channel and doing bits to help others, and that's what I'm doing. But yeah, I've subscribed to Yamy's first channel, and I think he's got a second one now too, hasn't he?
Yeah, the Yamy BTV, I think it's called.
Right, because the first one was it is what it is. That's it, yeah.
Let's remind the viewers then what your channel and what your book are called. Yeah,
my book's called The South London Borstal Boys Tales. It's on Amazon. It's doing pretty well at the minute. It's flying off the shelves. And a lot of that is down to Shaun Attwood. The first podcast and the second podcast, my sales have gone literally way up since I've been on your shows. So you know, I can't thank you enough for giving me the opportunity, because my book sales has gone up since I've been on your channel. And you know, it's amazing stuff. But yeah, it's called The South London Borstal Boys Tales. It's on Amazon. And I've got my YouTube channel is just called Joey Barnett. It's the same as my name. That's picking up too. I'm trying to upload new content onto it all the time, and now I've started like interviewing other guests, just more like friends really, who I know. You know, I'm never going to be a Shaun Attwood or anyone as like successful as you in the podcast game, Shaun. But what I want to do is my little channel. I'm just after creating awareness, you know, more than anything else.
Appreciate that, but when I started out, it was I wrote little notes, and my aunt smuggled them out of jail and put them online, and I thought no one would ever read them. So you know, we're all on the same path. You know,
power of the internet is unbelievable.
Power of the internet, power of YouTube, yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah,
I mean, before 2010, before I met my Mrs. Sam, I could just about read and write. You know, I think I said on the second podcast, I learnt in Wayland how to read and write. And I'd done it. I took sitting guilds in literacy, so it wasn't until 2010 that I could read and write. And now I've got a book published on Amazon, and I'm in the process of doing a second one. What we need to have a chat about, actually, Shaun, for the Audi.
Yeah. And did we do an audiobook on your first one yet?
No, we haven't done it yet.
We need to have a chat about that as well.
Yeah,
let's remind me about that then. And so there were some things that you wanted to talk about then today.
Yeah.
You had some.
Yeah, 2010 when I got out, I think that's where we left our last podcast.
Did we talk about your day of your release on the last one?
Yeah, we talked about when my sisters ever picked me up.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a bottle of champagne and we had a party that day, you know. I got out and a week after I got out on that sentence, Shaun, through one of my sister's friends, I met a girl called Sam, Samantha Smith. She was my sister's friend, so I half knew her anyway, you know. And where I was only just come out of jail, I was missing like a woman in my life, you know. And I was never one to mess about with loads of different girls, and you know, I've never been that type of a person. I've always been like, if I'm with one woman, that's the woman I'm going to stay with, and I plan to settle down with her, you know. That's the type of person I am, do you know what I mean, Shaun? And we clicked really quick, me and Sam. But she had a few problems, Shaun. She was battling an alcohol addiction at the time when I met her, and also a very, very messy, bad domestic relationship, what she'd just come out of. She was getting beaten up on a regular basis. Sam's got two daughters, which is, I treat them as my stepkids, because I've been with her for 11, 12 years. Charlie and Amy. And, you know, Sam was getting beaten up on a regular basis by a bloke just before I got with her. So she didn't have no trust for men. I don't think she trusted me at first, because obviously I'd just come out of jail, and to her I would just be like the last one, and the last one, and the last one. But we found each other, and for some reason we just clicked, we just gelled. We got together really quick, and after around 6 weeks, 8 weeks, Sam had her own flat, so I moved in with Sam after a few months. I supported Sam through the alcohol addiction. I weaned her off the alcohol. I made sure she wasn't relapsing. I was there for her. She was also there for me to stop me.
That's not an easy thing to do. How did you do that?
Weaned her off of alcohol and took her around to the doctors and put her onto a script. And I don't know why, but she followed the program with the doctors and weaned her way off of alcohol. Wow. And got off of it. It wasn't easy, Shaun, and
such a destructive drug as well, isn't it, alcohol?
We did split up the first few weeks, because her head weren't in the right place at that time. I was, because I was fresh out of jail, and I could half see what I wanted. There was something in Sam which I liked straight away, unlike the rest of them. At that time, I felt that she was the one for me, and she was the one I was going to settle down with. Although at that time she wasn't in that right place, because we split up a few times, and she said to me a few times, "Go and get out, leave," and I had to do that a few times. But yeah, we persevered with each other, and we smashed it. I got her off a drink. She showed me a different way, totally different than what I knew in life. I had triggers, I had old associates, I had friends trying to pull me back into the game, offer me bits of work, offer me drugs. So Sam was pulling me towards her, and my mates were pulling me the other way. So it was like a tug of war type of thing. And I was in the middle of it. So it was my choice. But this time round, I felt like I was in control of things a little bit better than what I was years ago. Whether that be down to experiences, bad experiences, good experiences, or knowledge, or doing so many years in prison, just getting to the stage where like you've had enough, and you need to turn your life around. And I got to that stage in 2010, especially after the John Venables thing too. That, to be honest with you, Shaun, that gave me a little wake-up call, because it was touch and go. Where I only had 1 day left on my sentence, it was touch and go. I had so many triggers, and getting texts on the phone from different old associates, knowing that I'm out of prison. I've got this, I've got that, I've got this, I myself was battling with a drug addiction too, because when you go to prison, the currency in prison is heroin, smack, brown. So I went in clean and come out with an habit. Obviously went in, sorry, I'll rectify that, sorry viewers. I went in with a cocaine habit, and obviously you can't get cocaine in jail, or you can, but you will not be able to maintain your habit in jail with cocaine. After being in prison for a few months with that big 12-year sentence, I was looking around me and I was seeing like a lot of the older school boys, many of my mates, all dabbling on the quiet, all taking brown. I found out why they was taking it at the time, because I tried it and it took you away from prison, it took you out of that atmosphere, it took you out of that situation, and you was in a cocoon, you was wrapped up in cotton wool, and you was gone for a day. So if you could do this in prison on a long sentence, who wouldn't? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, the dealers in there were making a fortune, and that was the currency in prison. So I went in with an addiction on crack, and I come out on that big sentence with an addiction on heroin.
What's the difference between heroin street prices and heroin prison prices?
So on the street, a £5 bit of heroin would be worth in prison, let's say, £300 to £400.
Bloody hell.
So a gram of heroin on the street is £80 to £100 now. In prison, you'd be making £500-600.
And this is another insane part of the drug laws, war on drugs. You've got dealers who get out of prison making less money selling drugs out of prison than they were selling in prison. And when they get busted and go back to prison, they go back to making the big money. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
Absolutely vicious circles.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a lot of the long-term jails, there is heroin available. It comes at a price, you know, but that's where I got my first habit, was prison, Shaun. It's horrible to say it, but it was. And I come out and I had to go onto a methadone program. I had to engage with a team. It took me 5-6 years to get off it, to get off the methadone script. It took me 5-6 years, and when people say about withdrawals, you know, you don't know what withdrawals are. You know, I've spent many nights withdrawing, do you know what I mean, Shaun? And I knew I was ready to come off of it, but it had that power over me. So if you didn't have it, your body's aching for it. You wake up every morning, that's the first thing on your mind. If you haven't got it, your stomach goes, you go to the toilet, you know, you're anxious, you make sure you want to get that next hit. So it's not like cocaine. With cocaine, you don't get physical withdrawals, but with heroin it's different. You get physical withdrawals, and that's why many heroin addicts can't quit it, because the withdrawals are just too much.
I had a cellmate. He'd just been arrested for the 155th time for small offences, and prior to that arrest, he'd been injecting heroin a lot. Every now and then he'd mix coke and crystal meth into it as well. And for the first month, he was like asleep with his eyes open. His hair was falling out. He was soiling his boxer shorts, and he was like in agony. And they like wouldn't give him anything in Arizona. Yeah. And I just saw it was like he was going through hell, absolute hell. It's
your worst nightmare, you know. Yeah. There's no easy way out at all of coming off of heroin. There's no easy way out.
Yeah.
And the old saying is like, you pay for the good times, and you pay dearly. It's not such a good time, be on heroin, but when you're in jail, if that's what gets you away, then it's quite easy to take it, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people I spoke to suffered horrendous things as kids as well. Never been given the tools to deal with that. So then they get on the heroin and then they're just away, like you say. All that PTSD and the anxiety of what's happened to them's gone, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah, you know.
And that's what you're trying to help the public understand. Because the old perception, and I had that old perception, was heroin addict lives under a bridge, stealing all day, lock them up, throw away the key. But they're actually society's most traumatised and vulnerable people, a lot of them.
Of course, yeah. I mean, they're human beings at the end of the day. And, you know, a lot of heroin addicts actually wouldn't want to be in the situation what they're in.
Yeah.
And if they could sort themselves out and not take it, then they would. But it's the withdrawals from it is too much.
Yeah, we need to introduce the Portuguese method, where they decriminalised it, got the health teams to talk to them because they wasn't scared of getting arrested, and got the users down for over 100,000 to less than 50,000 in record time.
Yeah, you see, they've got nothing like this in play. And nowadays, when you go to jail, unlike years ago, Shaun, I remember doing Burge years ago, and like you always see a smackhead coming in jail from day one, from dot one. I can always remember smackheads coming in jail. But years and years ago, you swerved them. You know, I looked down at them, and I definitely wouldn't entertain them. And they was an outcast. But now it's accepted in prisons. And, you know, if you went to prison years ago with an addiction and you told the doctor you were addicted to heroin or anything like that, he'd make you cluck it out and withdraw in a cell. There was no help. Now, there's methadone programs run inside prison, which is pharmaceutical heroin. So basically, these drug-fueled inmates what are going into prison for committing crimes to fund their habits, they're also getting drugs given to them now in prison. Whereas years ago, they was left in a cell to withdraw and cluck, and they come out a better person, clean. Now they're on methadone programs. That's how much it's changed so much.
So what do you think about your own experience with methadone?
I mean, it stops you from taking heroin because obviously it's an opiate. But it won't stop you from scoring heroin. You've got to want to stop that yourself. So basically, it takes away that feeling of waking up every morning, of having to go out to get money to fund your habit and worrying about where you're going to get your next bit of gear from, right? So that works like that, because you wake up in the morning, you go to your chemist, you get your methadone, and you're right as rain for the rest of the day. And it's a cycle like that. So I agree with it up to an extent like that. And many people have got clean down to it. But they don't tell you, before they put you on it, it's just as hard to come off as it is heroin, methadone. They're the same opiates. It's just one is a pharmaceutical liquid and the other one is heroin. But they're both the same withdrawals off of them. So yeah, I mean, people look down their noses at me or want to think of me in any other way because like I was addicted to heroin. That's your prerogative, that's up to you, do you know what I mean? But I can honestly say that I was addicted to it. You know, I went onto the programme and successfully come off of it, and I'm clean now. I've been clean now for 10 years. So
Wow.
it was about 2011 when I got clean. I've also stopped smoking THC now, and all. I've gone on to CBD, I think it is, Shaun, which is legal. They should have made it legal years and years ago. But yeah, I'm buying my CBD out of Holland and Barrett these days. I've gone up in the world a little bit.
So you got out, your missus had an alcohol problem, you had your problem, and somehow you guys managed to sort those problems out.
Right, yeah, I was. What happened was, Shaun, was when I come out of jail, I was getting targeted and I was getting harassed on a daily basis by the police.
What form of harassment?
I was getting followed. At first I thought it was paranoia, but it soon became apparent that it wasn't, because they pulled up beside me a few times and undone their window as I stopped and said, "What are you up to, Joey? I hope you're behaving yourself." You know, I was aware of it, do you know what I mean? And I know for a fact that when you come out of jail from committing armed robberies, you're on the radar, because the police are automatically thinking that you're going back to be an armed robber again, and they put you under observation, which is in the criminal underworld we call it ready eye.
Ready eye.
Ready eye.
What's the meaning of that? Ready eye, like the behind.
That means it's being watched.
It's being watched.
So if you go onto I put something in. So if you go onto a job, say I was going to commit a robbery with you, and the police was aware of the robbery we was going to commit, and they was watching it through intelligence or through a glass or through the leak getting leaked out, the information getting leaked out. That's called ready eye. The police are watching it. So I was being ready-eyed on a daily basis. And it got to me in the end, Shaun, do you know what I mean? Because they was just pulling me up for the sake of pulling me up. They knew I was insured. They knew I had a full licence. They knew I had an MOT. And they knew that I would certainly wouldn't carry anything in my car if I was going to carry anything. I'm not that stupid. But yeah, they was pulling me up at least twice a week for a few years, Shaun, harassing me. And my family had moved to Littlehampton previously, many years before. So most of my family was in Littlehampton, West Sussex, which was the place where I went when my mum and dad first moved there. And I met a few good guys. I'd like to mention one of their names is Danny Smith. he comes from London, but he was the first chap what I see in the pubs in Littlehampton, and we clicked, we gelled. He could relate to me. He was a worker, and we used to go out drinking together, and we'd done everything together, me and Danny Smith. But he was not a criminal. He was a worker, and you know, we had a good bunch of mates around us in Littlehampton, Shaun. And it was different. The boys in Littlehampton who I moved with was different to the boys in London. You know, you've got Andy Chato, which is called the General in Littlehampton. He's one of the chaps. Mickey Strevens and Georgie Strevens, Danny Smith, Doobie. There's so many boys around there, and you know, it was like moving from a school to kindergarten type of thing. Because Littlehampton was full of Londoners anyway. So yeah, so because Sam was also battling the addiction with alcohol, and most of my family was in Littlehampton, and I knew the police were following me on a daily basis, and it was getting to me. And I made the final decision to move away from it and get away from it, and to start a fresh and new life back with my family. They never give up on me, my family, but they was powerless to help me whilst I was on drugs and I was committing crime. They was powerless. And nowadays, I'm there for them. I've got such a big following from my family. You know, I inspire them. They love me to bits. I love them to bits. And I've got a great family network around me, Shaun. Unbelievable love. So, yeah, after coming out of jail for a few years, I decided to move out and go back to Littlehampton, move back away to the seaside with my family and all my previous friends, which I met years and years ago when my mum and dad moved up there. It was a bit hard for Sam at first because obviously her parents are still in London. And she's got two daughters, Charlie and Amy, who I look up as my stepdaughters. They was living with Sam's mum at the time whilst Sam was battling addiction to drink. Sam's mum and dad, as luck had it, see that Sam wasn't in a good place and she's on a slippery road, and they come in and offered to have the girls while Sam was going through the bad time, which really we're really grateful for, because of you know, anything could have happened later on. But yeah, so I moved up, and me and Sam moved up. Most of my all of my family are up there, but Sam's parents are still in London, and her girls have now grown up. They're in their 20s, Charlie and Amy, so they've fled the nest. They've moved away, and yeah, I'm back with all my family, back with my missus. Life couldn't be no better for me, Shaun. I'm in a great place, and I've got so many opportunities. It's, you know, we'd need another podcast to actually go over the amount of opportunities and new doors what's opened up, and a lot of it is down to you, Shaun, your platform, coming onto your podcast. You know, so many people have reached out to me. If I showed you a few messages on my phone, you know, it's so inspiring, and
The strength of your story.
to know that I'm helping so many other people with similar lifestyles and what I had. I'm getting new messages on my phone every day. You know, I can help these people as much as I can, and I will help these people, and I do on a daily basis. But I struggle myself sometimes, Shaun. You know, I have got PTSD. I've been diagnosed with it from a doctor. I'm not on medication for it because I believe in talking, and I believe in the power of people. And just because I have got it, that don't mean to say that anyone looks any differently at me. You know, my cards on the table. I've got mental health issues. Some days I wake up and I can't even look at people, let alone talk to people on the phone. And the next day I wake up and I'm right as rain. I'm a loving, different person. But I've learned to control it over the years, and yeah, I'm told by so many different people that I'm such a good person, and they're so happy to have me in their life, and I'm making a difference to other people, you know, Shaun, and that's what it's all about now. So yeah, I've done many different prison sentences. I've been around many different people. I've mentioned a few high-profile names, what I know, and I've been around. I've written a few. Well, I didn't even need to write them down. Really, I can say them off the top of my head without even writing them. Charlie Cray, I know him. I knew him. God bless his soul. I was in Belmarsh with Charlie in 2000, year 2000, when he got 12 years for conspiracy to import Class A, which he never done it. Apparently, they found a hair or piece of DNA on the package, and they give Charlie 12 years. They give him that as a death sentence, by the way, because he was 76,
76.
And they never, ever found nothing on him, or the only thing they ever got was a little bit of, I'm sure it was like either a hair off his head or something silly like a bit of DNA on this package. And they give him 12 years.
What was he like then in prison?
Everyone loved him, and he loved everyone. He was like a really nice person, quiet, and he had a lot of respect for everyone. Everyone was aware of who he was, Shaun, do you know what I mean? And yeah, he was a lovely person. Reggie Cray, I've met him numerous times on different prison sentences.
Got any Reg stories?
I come to Lewis in the late 80s, early 90s, and getting off the sweatbox. And as you come through the reception and through the gates, you're all on the sweatbox, and the laundry is just on the left-hand side. And Reggie was standing outside the laundry with a pair of flip-flops, a pair of shorts and a vest, like looking up at the van, you know what I mean, and seeing who's coming off the van. And I used to train with him down the gym. He was on the lifers wing, but we used to meet in the gym every now and then. And I used to train with him down the gym, and he was such a powerful man. I used to hold the bag for him when he used to punch the bag about. And I'll tell you, he used to send me flying. He was such a powerful man, lovely man to be around. Pat Tate, I met him, was in Chelmsford in 1991.
What had Pat Tate done?
He was in for fraud and deception or something like that. I met him at reception in Chelmsford prison, so I didn't really have too much to do with him, but he stood out for me because he had a suit on. He was dapper dressed, and he just stood out from the rest, and he was a big lump, and you could feel his presence in the reception room amongst all the other inmates. You could feel it. And I went up to him, because he had a suit on, and I thought he was a solicitor or something like that. But yeah, we got talking, and I later found out his name was Pat Tate. He went on normal location in Chelmsford prison, and he was just one of the chaps. But I was very aware that he was going to be a very high respected chap by the way he looked, the way he dressed, his era, and the respect what people give him when he was in his presence. Do you know what I mean? David Fraser, Frankie Fraser's boy, I was with him in Belmarsh. I think we covered that on the last one, when Charlie Cray and David Fraser was both on the cleaners together, and they wouldn't talk to each other because of the outside rift many years ago, but they did never sort it out. But David's he's a lovely fella, bubbly, gentleman, a nice gentleman. Stevie Gillen is doing really well, the Monkey Puzzle Tree.
Yeah, his YouTube channel has he's carved out a niche really of interviewing these American gangsters, and he's going viral, and his channel's doing really good right now.
Yeah, he's a great person, Steve.
Yeah, what a great guy. Yeah, I went to his house and had some food with him, and did a podcast for his channel as well. Yeah,
he was a different person when I was with him, Shaun. Complete and utter different person. You wouldn't have recognised him in '99 when I was with him. He's completely changed for the better. He was a lot slimmer, and he was game, and he was one of the chaps. He was a lovely fella. Do you know what I mean? He jumped on my food boat actually when he first come to Whitemore. As soon as he come onto the wing. Before he got to know anyone, I think I was one of the first chaps what he see in there. and we was on a food boat with 3 or 4 of us. And I asked him, I said, Steve, do you want to come on my food boat? And he went, yeah, all right, Joe. Jumped on, and we used to eat a bit of grub together, and he's done really well, Steve. He's, really well. Razor Smith.
Yeah, Noel Razor Smith, I read his book. Wow, that opening scene where he describes the bank robbery, absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, he's a brilliant author, Razor, and a great person. He's actually my agent at the minute.
Is he?
Yeah, he phoned me up recently, Tuesday last week.
Yeah.
Because we talk on a regular basis. And he works for the Inside Times. He's the editor of the Inside Times newspaper. So basically, he done a big article on me on the Inside Times newspaper recently. And it went on the Inside Times, and it went a little bit viral in there. One of the inmates who picked up on it and got back to the director of the Inside Times, which is a one above Razor. And he wants me to reach out. He's reaching out to me, the inmate in there, after reading my story. So I got in touch with Razor. Razor said, "Yep." He said, "It's all go." He said, but I was a little bit everywhere when I spoke to him, because we speak all the time, and he's one of my best mates out here. So we speak, and he just said, "Look, I can see your head's a little bit frazzled because of you've got different appointments, you've got different podcasts, so many different people want you." He said, "I'm going to help you out. I want to be your agent," which I really appreciate him doing for me. So yeah, I've got him on board, and he's a very successful author, smashing books out, a great person. He's been on all the Lad Bible and Minutes With and all the big platforms, and he's someone who I aspire to. I look up to. He's my best friend, which is really handy. I know him inside jail and outside, so we got that connection. Do you know what I mean, Shaun?
Yeah, you're in safe hands with him, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We spoke about the book, didn't we? The Publish Me book. I'm in the process of getting my second book laid down, which I want to talk to you about after, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Publish Me book, that's all. That's up and running. Me and my missus have opened. It's gotten a bit chilly now, isn't it? I should have put my jacket on.
Don't mind.
No, it's all right. Me and my missus, we both have got a soft spot for anyone underprivileged, or someone, or anyone what haven't got many people there for them, like homeless people. And we both got that in common, me and my missus, whereas she's got a lot of feelings for things like that, and so have I. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and if I can help one person, my job's done. It makes me feel amazing. And we started going out working from my car as a mobile soup kitchen, searching the streets for homeless. That was probably about 8 months ago, and it's gone absolutely crazy. I mean, we go out on a regular basis now, and we meet with different people, different towns we go to. We take soups, coffee, tea, sleeping bags, blankets, coats. We've got a GoFundMe page. And yeah, so if anyone wants to donate to the GoFundMe page, all that money, every single bit of that money from that GoFundMe page goes towards our charity. And since we've started doing this, me and my missus, we've had other organisations that have got in touch with me and want me to join them on their journeys. And they're well established, up and running charities. So the opportunities are really coming in now, thick and fast, Shaun.
Make sure to send me the GoFundMe link so we can put it below the video.
Yeah, most definitely will. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, today, Shaun, I do suffer with anxiety. I do get some stories mixed up. I'm just like you. We're just normal. I'm just a normal person now. Trying to better myself. I've got a great life now. I love going out for walks with my missus and the dogs. As you can see today, I brought my missus on the journey because she's going to see her parents in London, and we brought our little dog with us. I've got a British bulldog called Bruno, He's a big old boy, but he's round my sister Pam's house in Littlehampton because he doesn't travel too well. He shakes and he's sick and that. So we left him round my sister's house, Pamela. I've got 2 sisters I'd love to give a shout to, Pamela and Angela. Love you very much, dearly. All my family too. I've got such a big family, network support. My auntie, Margaret Gilmartin, she's just lost another sad loss. She's just lost her husband recently, Big George, and just before that, 2 years before that, she lost her son, young George, George Gilmartin, which is my first cousin I'm very close with. He died at 43 years of age, and that's recently. He had a heart attack, and by the time the ambulance got there, he was dead. They couldn't resuscitate him. And he was a fitness fanatic.
They took a long time to get there.
He didn't take drugs. He was a fitness fanatic. He used to train in the gym.
Yeah. Can happen to anyone.
20 minutes he was there for. But my auntie, which was my cousin's mum, she got a phone call to say that her son had just passed out or passed away, and to quickly get around the house where he was at that time. So my auntie Margaret, with her son Lee, which the house was only round the corner from where she lived, so they went round to the house, and George was dead. Her son was dead in the front room on the armchair. He died of a heart attack. Ambulances come, and they tried for so long to resuscitate him, but he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah. I've got so many people in my family that have passed away recently, Shaun.
There's a lot of death everywhere right now. I've been noticing this. It's quite prevalent.
Yes,
Yeah.
You know, it's just a time, I don't know what it is, Shaun, but yeah, deaths have gone up, and my family have lost so many members.
Because you've got the pandemic, and then you've got all the strain on the health system. So people who normally would get treated aren't getting treated. You know, Wild Man, he tried to get in, and they were telling him just stay at home, things like that.
Sad, isn't it, Shaun?
Yeah, and then you just got all these people dying because they can't get in.
Telling him to stay at home, what type of, like, you know,
Yeah.
that's because of the pandemic and because of the COVID, and
Yeah.
the world's gone absolutely crazy in it. But luckily enough now, the numbers are coming down, and we're coming out of lockdown type of thing, and you know, because a lot of business have gone under, and it's stopped a lot of people in their tracks.
Yeah.
So yeah, today, Shaun, I'm a family man, and my family love me being around them, because I'm looked at as like a peacemaker, or like someone who understands everything in life. I've just got that ability to be that person.
When you've been through a lot, you have something about you, don't you, that people can draw on that knowledge from the school of hardship.
Most definitely. For instance, like, you know, I could be out in a restaurant, for instance, and there could be two men, might even be mates, having a row with each other and going to throw punches at each other. I've got that ability to break it up and calm the situation down and show them how to look at the bigger picture. So maybe it's because of like experience, knowledge, what I've done over the years. Do you know what I mean? It's just given me that ability to have them skills, Shaun. But I'm taking them skills and using them for my advantage. And
you get respected because of what you've been through, and people will then listen to you as well.
Absolutely amazing, yeah. And it makes you feel so good. Do you know what I mean? To know that you're helping other people out, Shaun, and
bring some good karma to the world when there's all the craziness going on. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I've got you to thanks for giving me this opportunity, Shaun, to come onto your platform.
It's the power of your story as well that's resonating with people. That's, you know, people are reaching out to you because of your authenticity, the amount of years that you've served, the fucking hardships, the ups and downs, and to come out with this indomitable spirit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to help people now, and I just feel it's my turn to give back into the community not what I took out of it, because I took so much out of it. I was horrible for so long, but I just feel I'm at that age now where I can actually help other people and I can make a difference in life. And money, material things and things like that doesn't give it the satisfaction. What gives me the satisfaction out of helping someone, just through listening to them, speaking to them. Money couldn't buy that. Do you know what I mean?
And that's what we'll look back on, isn't it, when we're about to die?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the difference. Do you know what I mean? I hope it ain't soon, Shaun, but my journey's only just started.
Yeah. So, how many prisons have you been in then over the entire incarceration? Is it so many you can't even remember? Or
I'd say, without exaggerating, Shaun, there's probably only 3 or 4 prisons in the UK what I haven't been in.
Yeah.
What I haven't been in.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. The rest I've been in.
Yeah.
I'll go over a few.
Go on.
Belmarsh, High Down, Long Larton, Full Sutton, Whitemore, The Scrubs, Pentonville, Dovegate, Parkhurst, there's a few more, but I can't think of more, but there's a good 10 there.
It's going to sound like a funny question, but which one did you enjoy the most?
Whitemore.
And why is that?
And that was in year 2000. And that's when I got the 12 years. Because I was around people, I was doing very long sentences, very similar people to me. Yamy was in there with me, and we was like that, really close, me and Yamy. And where I've been a criminal for most of my life, and I've been in so many different prisons, I felt at the top of my ladder amongst high-profile inmates. So that is where I felt the best, when I reached the top. So I've been at the bottom and I've been at the top.
So you were established?
Yeah, I'm very established throughout UK prisons, yeah. There's, I'm very established, Shaun, yeah. Maybe for the wrong reasons and all, not the right reasons, because I wasn't no saint in no prison at all. I was a right little fucker.
So how would life be different for someone who wasn't established?
It depends what type of prison they're going into. If you go into a long-termist prison, Shaun, and you're not established, you've got people looking over at you and thinking, what's he even for? Who does he know? And if you're not known in the system, when you go in these long-termist prisons, people want to know why you're not known, and apart from people like Harold Shipman, who I met in Whitemore too, he was in there, and he didn't hardly used to come out of his cell.
Is he the UK's most prolific serial killer, Shipman?
Yeah, he killed.
Hundreds of people,
hundreds.
Was it? The doctor gave him.
Yeah, he was injecting them money with morphine and
Was he getting them to leave him money or stuff, wills or anything?
No. We thought that was the case, but it wasn't. It wasn't money orientated. He was addicted to killing people. He got addicted.
How was he treated?
Funny enough, with respect.
Really?
Funny enough, with respect. I don't know how. There is respect in long-termist jails.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if a young person, say in their 20s or 30s, have stabbed someone in their 50s and 60s, that's a liberty. So that young person will get served up for that, and it's a liberty. So there's respect in there. So because he was an old man and he kept himself to himself, he wasn't definitely not on a killing spree in prison. He hardly come out of his cell. When he did come out of his cell, he was just going down the library where he was studying, and that was every Wednesday afternoon. But other than that, he was a frail old man. Do you know Tony Martin, another one?
No, who's that?
He killed what? There was two travellers will enter his farm in Kent, and they went to burgle his house. They got caught burgling his house in the early hours in the morning by Tony Martin, and Tony Martin come down the stairs with a with a shotgun, an old 410 single shot shotgun, a 410. The two burglars, obviously woke the person up of the house and was running out of the drive, out of his house. Tony Martin shot one of the kids and killed him stone dead. He died on the spot, and the other one got away. There was a big thing in the paper, in the newspaper. It was around 2008, 2007, but I see him in 2010 in Wayland. I was with him. But yeah, he shot one of the burglars, and one of the burglars died, and there was a big case going on. It was all over social media, and he didn't get nicked for murder though. Although the burglars was running away and had their back to him, he shot one of them from behind as he was running off. So it should have been a murder case, really, as far as I was concerned. He shot that young kid and killed him. He got manslaughter, and he got a sentence. He got a straight sentence. He was in Wayland, and he was another one, like a hermit. He didn't ever come out of his cell. Everyone was aware of what he'd done, and everyone dropped him out and left him alone. Didn't bully him or nothing like that, because that it don't go on in jail nowadays, Shaun. Years ago it used to go on bullying, but nowadays you've got like kids bullying old men. Like that didn't happen years ago, do you know what I mean? But no one bullied him, and he just got on with his sentence. He was another one, Tony Martin. I met him. You just can't judge a book by its cover, you know. You just can't look at people and think he's a murderer. Do you know what I mean? It just takes all walks of life. Do you know what I mean?
Look at Ted Bundy.
Another one.
Charming, normal-looking guy.
God, yeah.
He's going back and having sex with the corpses, wasn't he, and stuff?
Was that the one in America?
Yeah. Yeah, he escaped twice.
God,
Yeah, I think they're doing another movie about him now. They just announced it.
Yeah, I mean, this is what's wrong about this jurisdiction of the police. There's just no justice for things like that. Do you know what I mean?
Did you come across Fred West?
No, but I come across Myra Hindley.
Did you?
Yeah. When I was in Rochester, this was way back in the day. Way back. Yamy was in Rochester too. That's how back it was. God, you're talking in the 80s. It was a ball stall then. And it was a hard ball stall, and it was really hard. The screws used to really abuse us and beat us up.
And just to recap for the younger generation who perhaps aren't familiar with Myra Hindley, she was a partner of Ian Brady, the Moors murderers. Yeah. The Moors murderers, and this was up in the north. And they would take kids out on the moors and torture, murder, and I think they even did some recordings of it, didn't they?
They have, yeah, they did, yeah. And they were tormenting the social media and tormenting the police. They wouldn't tell where their bodies were, and obviously the victims of the deceased wanted to put their family, at rest, and they wouldn't confess. They wouldn't say where the bodies were and things like that. Horrible situation to be in, Shaun, isn't it? Knowing your family's gone and you. But yeah, so I make you laugh actually, because we was in Borstal, we had to get our hair cut. So they bought someone from Cookham Wood, which is a woman's prison opposite Rochester. So it's from like here to there. It's a different prison. And they brought Myra Hindley into the male's prison as a barber. Unbelievable. Blinder. To cut inmates' hair. She cut my hair. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you know it was her away?
No, I didn't know until many years later. I found out, I'd done a bit of research like years later about Myra Hindley, and that's when it clicked, and I thought, God, she cut my hair in Rochester in the Borstal. But
that's a security risk from numerous angles. I mean, a known kid killer is likely to get attacked, and if she's a killer, she's got bloody access to her.
Well, she's using scissors. Like, in a ball store, which is young offenders. And that's what she was doing outside, killing young people. You see, there's two different worlds, Shaun. Like, when you go to prison, there's many things that happen in prison what the public don't know. Murders, suicides, deaths. There's so many different assets to it, but as soon as you go behind that prison door, as soon as them gates are locked, you're shut off from the outside world, and the outside world don't know much about inside world, inside a prison. I mean, that's why that Inside Times newspaper has come about, because you've got inmates from in jail telling their stories, and it's going out to the Inside Times, and it's going worldwide, do you know what I mean?
That's how this whole thing with my mission came about, because I said to the guard in the jail, how do you guys get away with all this stuff? Dead rats in the food, the cockroaches, the guards are murdering mentally ill prisoners. And the guard said to me, the world has got no idea what goes on in here. Exactly. And the public doesn't give a shit about prisoners. Basically, we can get away with anything.
Exactly. This is what I was saying to you earlier on about paedophiles in prisons. This is why, a lot of people that do them in prison years ago don't get arrested for it, because it's all kept under the carpet.
And people sometimes say, I read in the comments, they say, this can't be true, it wasn't reported in the media.
Yeah.
As if, like, the prison's going to say, come on, media! They're the last people. Let's report a murder, let's report an assault, so our stats go down.
See, they're supposed to be helping inmates out by putting you on courses to get further, like, educate yourself and get better tools and gain experience and things like that. It's another world, they're not interested.
Completely different world where anything can happen, anything can kick off at any time.
And it's a big money spinner too, Shaun. I mean, how much money do private prisoners get for each inmate per year?
60,000, 70,000, isn't it now?
That's what I'm saying. So they're locking people up for the fun of it nowadays. Like, they get paid for it.
That's why they concentrate on the lowest hanging fruit, the drug users.
But I mean, nowadays, Shaun, I don't think I could handle going to prison nowadays, because when I was doing my bird years ago, it was like a bit of ash, a bit of rocky, cannabis, and then the MDTs come in, which is called a mandatory drug test. They come in the UK, and cannabis stays in your system for 28 days, whereas the heavy stuff, brown, is out of your system in 2 days. So just goes to show you how many people switched over and used their brains. You could go down the gym, sweat it out, drink a few bottles of water, the next day your piss was clean.
Direct incentive to get on the hard stuff.
And then, so it went from cannabis to heroin, and now from heroin it's gone to spice. And this is something what is on a totally different Richter scale. The stories what I hear from different people in prisons about spice is scary.
Prisoners are writing to me from Arizona about it.
It frightens the life out of me. I watched something on YouTube recently where there's a few inmates that had a mobile phone and they was giving some boy spice for nothing, but they've got to slap him. To accept the spice, you've got to take a slap. And he was in a cell, and they give him this spice. He was smoking a few tokes of it, and he said, "Yeah, come on in, hit me." And the geezer slapped him around the side of the face, but so hard it sent him over the other side of the cell. I'm thinking to myself, if you go to that measure to let someone do that to you for a piece of shit drug what no one even knows about, it's on a different level. And there's stabbings, there's so much violence around spice nowadays in jails. Years ago, as I said, we had cannabis or the other stuff, and it used to subdue us, chill us out, keep us down. But now it's opposite, do you know what I mean? This spice, people don't know what they're doing on it, and it's sending them off their heads. They could quite easily murder someone and then go asleep, wake up, and not even know they've committed that murder. It's completely gone out of control. So I couldn't go back to prison nowadays, and I couldn't be amongst that, Shaun. And also, there's another reason why I wouldn't go back to prison nowadays, because there is solidarity, there is respect, and there is morals amongst criminals years ago. Nowadays, there's none. So, for instance, if me, Razor, Yamy, Stevie Gillen, all of my mates, yeah, they're my friends who I know very, very well. If any of us lot go to jail, this is how it is nowadays. The younger generation will want to take you out, take me out, just so they can go and tell their other friends, we've just done Joey Barnett, he's a pussy. And then they climb up the ladder further and further and further. So now I'm a risk. And so is people like Yamy and my other mates. We're now a risk to go to prison. Not because of the officers, but because of the younger generation wanting to have a pop at people like us at our age to take us out of the game so they can laugh at us and say, well, he's never that anyway.
It's like the young lions taking out the old lions, isn't it?
Yeah, and many like old lions like me have realised that, and we've given the leeway and gone, right, give a cold shoulder, get on with it. So I'm glad I got to that point, Shaun, do you know what I mean? And in 2010, I'm glad I really sorted my shit out and really put my cards on the table and chose to settle down with my Mrs. Sam and have a happy, peaceful life rather than go back to all that turmoil and relapse on drugs. One relapse for me on drugs is destruction. That is why I'm so strict on drugs now, because I've got a thing called an addictive personality. So if I take it, going back to the ease and trips years ago, but then, Shaun, we didn't have to take loads anyway.
Tolerance.
Mitsubishi, a burger, a Cali, off our nuts, flying 2-3 days. That's how much it changed. Now they're taking 3 and 4 of them. You couldn't take 3 or 4 of them back in the day, Shaun, could you?
No, it was pure stuff. There's all kinds of crazy chemicals in the stuff now.
Yeah, it's like spice. What they're cutting it with is frightening, mate.
And that too is all a function of drug laws. Every year the legal drug market gets bigger, more toxic, more chaos, stronger drugs, more deaths. Fentanyl is now. I spoke to a doctor out of Canada recently, and he says, because of fentanyl, I wish we could just go back to the good old days of heroin.
Yeah. And, you know, if people accept that measure of going back to the days of heroin, what is that actually saying?
Yeah, and what's going to come next?
Do you know
What's it going to take before the government reverses all the drug laws to stop this? It's a function of drug laws. It's just going to get worse every year.
Thing is, and all, Shaun, it was a bit like when I was growing up. There's not many opportunities for youngsters nowadays. But saying that, a lot of them don't want it. Because if you want something that bad, you work for it. And you get to that situation where you get it. Do you know what I mean? You sacrifice things, you persevere, and you know, there's not many opportunities out there now for youngsters, and this is why a lot of them are turning to crime. Look at the knife crime now; it's gone up so high. I mean, talking about Darren G, you know what I mean? I really agree with his campaign. You know, is it change your life? Put down your knife.
Choose a life, not a knife.
That's it, right?
L5 alive.
That's Darren G's, yeah, and you know, I'm a follower of Darren because of you know, the word. He's got a good word.
Yeah.
He's got a great word. You know what I mean? And he is inspiring to watch him. You know, he's inspiring. Sorry, I'm aware of the YouTube, the podcast like battles at the minute. You know, where everyone's trying to strive to get number one and you know, the best. But I don't really get involved in that part of it. You know, all I can do is I can look at people how I see them. Do you know what I mean? And if you know, if that's the case, then I don't want to be a part of that. Podcast wars and things like that. That's just not a bit of me.
It's childish, isn't it?
It was unheard of years ago, Shaun. I mean, listen, people like yourself give me the opportunity to come on your platform. You know, I've got nothing but love for you and thanks and appreciation. You know.
Well, we appreciate you sharing such a powerful story.
You know, to come on your podcast and for you to give me the opportunity to get my story out there and then turn against you and stab you in the back. That's not how I roll.
Yeah. All right, on the subject of all these prisons then, I asked you what your favourite one was. What was the worst one?
Sorry, say that again, Shaun.
Remember earlier you listed all the prisons you've been to throughout your incarcerations, and I asked you what your favourite one was. We covered that one because you were established, blah, blah, blah. What was the worst prison you were at?
Parkhurst.
Why?
By far. Parkhurst. 1 minute. Parkhurst is on the Isle of Wight, so it's on an island. Most of the prison officers are related to each other. So how we looked at it years ago was those interbred. So if you have a beef with one officer, you've got a beef with a lot of them. And it's known as dumping ground, Parkhurst. And it always was. So if you play up in the system and you're unmanageable, you will get threatened with Parkhurst. And I got sent there a few times with Parkhurst. And that's when I was at the pits of my hell. That's when I was at my lowest. I had an argument with one officer. They put me down in a segregation unit, and they was coming in on a daily basis, bending my arms up, restraining me, put my legs up my back, moving me from one cell to the other. And it got to a stage where I just got 12 years. I was in the pits of my hell. I didn't want to live. I didn't care if I lived or I didn't care if I died. And I had to cover myself with my own shit. To stop the officers from coming in, bending me up anymore. And I was like that for 3 days and 3 nights.
What?
In solitary confinement, in a padded cell, with my own shit all up the walls and all over myself, in my face, in my hair. That way, I knew that the officers wouldn't come in and have a go at me. That's how bad I was getting bullied by the officers. And it's called a dirty protest in the system. That's what it's called, a dirty protest. So that was my lowest point while I was in Parkhurst. I felt isolated.
What bullying tactics had they employed to bring you to that point?
They liked, unlike other prisons, Parkhurst liked to have full control of the inmates. So when they say jump, you've got to say how high. It's one of them ones. Because they're all related. They're all steroid freaks. They're all lumps. They train every afternoon in the gym. So they're intimidating. A lot of them are regimental. There's a lot of bullying going on. There was a lot of bullying going on in there. And I was in there for a few months and I decided that I didn't want to be in there no more. So one day I planned it actually. There was an officer that kept digging me out on a daily basis. He used to call me a cocky little bastard. You can end up with a life sentence, bullying me. And then one day I decided that I wanted out of that prison, and the quickest way out of that prison would be to get a bucket and fill it up with piss and shit and go into the office and put it over the screw's head. So I see him I come out of my cell one day. I've been brewing piss and shit up in a bucket for a few days, running up to it. I see him in the office, I open the door when I park the bucket on top of his head. There was piss and shit all over him. I didn't care the consequences. I didn't care if they battered me, broke my body, bruised me. As far as I was concerned, I was going that extra mile to get out of that jail. And that's what you had to do to get out there. You had to go to them measures because it was known as dumping ground. So to get chucked out of there, you've got to do something spectacular to get chucked out of there. And that's what I've done. We call it, in the system, it's called a shit up. Shit up. So, I've done an officer with my own piss and shit. Got bent up and everything else. What happens? Got chucked down in the segregation unit. They was moving me down in a block. They was moving me every few days into different cells, and I believe that they was interfering with my food. When they was bringing my food to me, they were spitting in it, putting bogies in it, and things like that, because that's what we used to talk about down in seg to the other inmates. Like, that's the measures they used to go, do you know what I mean, to do things to us. So I went on a hunger strike, covered myself in dirty shit, just to get out of jail. I stayed in there for 3 days, 3 nights. I stayed on a hunger strike for a week, I think 5 days or something like that, Shaun. And at the end of it, I remember coming to my senses, and one of the officers, like, talking to me, and he was an old school officer, and he said, look, what do you want? Do you know what I mean? But that was after, like, I'd done what I've done, do you know what I mean? And I think they knew the measures I was prepared to go to. And I think they felt a threat coming in front of me after I'd done one of them, because they knew that I didn't have a care in the world, do you know what I mean? I was known as like trouble in the system, aggravation, a problem. I was a problem to the system. But when when you get a long sentence, Shaun, you've got to do what you've got to do to get through the sentence. And that's the way I got through my sentence, by playing up, messing about, and things like that. So yeah, I stayed in the segregation unit in Parkhurst after the officer spoke me down, got me in clean clothes, fed me, put me into another cell. I stayed in there for 6 months in that segregation unit. 6 months. And I got an hour's exercise a day, and the rest I was on 23-hour lockup. And I was in there 6 months. And then they shipped me out from there after 6 months and sent me to Swellside. That's another story altogether. What's in Swellside? It's very, very violent, dangerous prison, Swellside. One of the most notorious, dangerous prisons there is out there still today now, Swellside.
Were you established in there?
Yeah, because my co-defendant was in there, Mr. Big, who I can't name on here. Well, 2 of my co-defendants actually, Shaun. So 4 of us got arrested. And my other 2 co-defendants was in Swellside, and the Grass, who we spoke about before, he only got a fraction of what we got, but he was in another jail. So yeah, when I went to Swellside, my 2 co-defendants was in there, and it was like going from home to home, do you know what I mean? But there's so much violence in there on a different scale.
What was happening to other people on a different scale?
Different scales. Instead of them getting beaten up or anything like that, people got, there was people getting severely hurt in there. I witnessed a murder in there. 2 brothers went into jail for supplying drugs, and an argument broke out with another guy in there, and he come into the cell in the morning with a table leg and a nail hanging out of it, done him in the head with it and killed him. Left his other brother in jail to mop the pieces up and pick up all them bad things. Losing his brother. I've seen numerous people getting stabbed. I've seen numerous people getting slashed with double razors in toothbrushes. Hot fat sugar. But it was on a daily basis in Swellside. The panic bell was going off a good 5 times a day, and people was getting taken outside hospital, getting stitched up on a daily basis. Because it's a long-termers jail. If you're a problem in the system and you're only a Cat B at that time, they then send you to the worst Cat B prison there is in the system. And the most notorious Cat B prison in the system is Swellside, and it still is today, for violence. So that's what they sent you as another punishment or deteriorate. If you play up in the system, that's where you're going. So I got sent to all of them, Shaun. I've done all of them. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so that's where I am today, Shaun. I've got another book coming out. Going out feeding the homeless. Now we're coming out of the pandemic. There's loads of opportunities, new doors opening up. I've got people reaching out to me, and life's great for me, Shaun, now. So
good to hear. You deserve it, man. What time is your missus coming back?
Whenever I go and pick her up.
Okay.
Because I've got to shoot to London from here.
Okay. Should we wrap it up here then?
Yes, please.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Yeah. So please let us know what you have thought about today's podcast in the comments. All of Joey's links are in the description box, including the book. We'll put the GoFundMe down there. We will put his YouTube channel down there. So, you know, huge thank you to the people who've supported what he's done so far and what he continues to do. And I was really touched by the story of you going around with the soups and the sleeping bags and stuff like that. That's...
You know, some of these homeless guys, sorry to go back on it, but you know, some of these homeless guys, Shaun, they've got nothing. They're at the rock bottom. And just to sit down and talk to them and listen to them, it means so much to them. Yeah. And it makes me feel so great when I've done that.
Yeah.
Like, I've come away and I've actually left a little bit of an impact on that poor person. And that makes me feel so good, do you know what I mean?
If I see a homeless person now, I say, what's your story, and find out what they've been through. Yeah. All right, so huge thank you to the new subscribers. Subscription logo is down here. Thanks to James for coming out today in the heavy traffic. And huge thanks to Joe as well, as usual, for coming out. All right, give us a hug, man. Yeah, cheers. Well done. Brilliant. Yeah. Well done. Man. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.